Well, thank you all for being here today to discuss such an important and pressing issue. I'm honored to introduce the America's Children's Act with Congresswoman Miller-Meeks, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, and Congresswoman Kim. I'm also honored to be joined by documented dreamers from around the country. Maria Teresa Lewis from the Research Triangle area in North Carolina, where I'm from. Pareen Matra from Iowa. Deep Patel, founder of Improve the Dream and the executive director of Impact. And Neil Makia, I hope I said that okay. I commend these young adults for their determination and commitment to bringing awareness to the over 200,000 children who face aging out and self-deportation. I've heard from many documented dreamers and their families in my district who are worried about their futures. And they've approached me about this in supermarkets, in restaurants, everywhere in the district. Documented dreamers grow up in this country, complete their education in the American school system, and graduate with degrees from American institutions of higher education. They are STEM graduates, high-performing students, essential workers, and they contribute significantly to our nation. However, due to the decades-long backlog in the immigrant visa system, many of these individuals will turn 21 and age out of eligibility for their temporary visa status and for permanent residence status before they can complete the process. Others, such as dependents of E1 and E2 non-immigrants, have no path to permanent residence. When these individuals turn 21, if they're unable to change to temporary status independent of their parent, they must make the untenable choice of remaining here with their family without status or returning to their country of birth alone, a country they barely know. The America's Children Act provides a pathway to permanent residency for these documented dreamers who were brought to the United States as dependent children of workers. This 2021 version of the House's H.R. 6, the American Dream and Promise Act, extends retroactive protections to documented dreamers. However, the Senate's Dream Act does not include this population. We must fix this problem so our young documented dreamers like Deep, Maria Teresa, Pareen can stay in the country they have called home for their entire lives. Now I want to introduce my colleague, Congresswoman Miller-Meeks from Iowa, who has been a champion on this issue. Congresswoman?
Thank you so much, Representative Ross, and I would like to take the time to thank Representatives Ross, Krishnamoorthi, and Kim for their work on this important piece of legislation. And I'd also like to thank my constituent, Pareen Matre, for her advocacy for documented dreamers like herself and for joining us today. We can all agree that our immigration system is broken and needs to be reformed. But I believe that we must first ensure and foremost that our immigration system protects those who come here legally and support them as they work to contribute and to improve our country. When I first met with the University of Iowa student Pareen Matre, we discussed the importance of having young people like her both in our country and in our state. Our America's Children's Act would protect individuals who are children of long-term non-immigrant visa holders from aging out of the system at age 21. These students grew up here, they attended school here, they've gone to universities here, and they continue to make our country a better place, and I am proud to support them. Thank you so much.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi.
Hey, thank you so much. And I want to just say a special thank you to Congresswoman Ross for her leadership and for convening us here. And thank you to Congresswoman Miller-Meeks and Congresswoman Kim for collaborating on this effort. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so honored to be someplace they can pronounce my name properly. It's a true story. I think I may have mentioned this before, but when I first ran for office in Illinois, I said, "Hi, my name is Raja Krishnamoorthi," and the person looked right back at me and said, "Roger Christian Murphy. Very nice to meet you." I didn't know the Irish made it to India. And so in any case, it's a real pleasure and honor to be with all of you, many of whom look like me. because I was born in India and I came here when I was 3 months old. My parents came here to pursue the American dream, just as was the case for many of you. Now, the only difference is that your parents, in many cases, came here on employer-based visas, such as an H-1B visa, thinking that in a reasonable period of time, if they choose, they can then migrate from H-1B status to a green card and eventually citizenship. And the difference between you and me is that that type of path was more viable when I was brought here as an infant compared to you. Today, an H-1B holder who seeks to become a green card holder in the United States must wait 80 years or more, which means that any of their dependents, people like yourselves, will age out of a legal status at the age of 21. And that means that you are essentially on your own, and in many cases have to be self-deporting yourselves to other countries, even though this is the only country you've known as home. That makes no sense. You've went to school here. You've lived your entire lives here. You have contributed to our countries, and you need to stay. And that's why I'm so proud to be an original co-sponsor of this legislation. We need to first make sure that you have a path to remain here, just like every other dreamer. And secondly, that you have the ability to work here even after you become 21, even as we're going to your final status over time. And so I can't emphasize enough how important this legislation is. I'm going to do everything I can to fight with my colleagues to make it law. And I can't wait to see all of you become green card holders, permanent residents, and citizens, and to greet you as such on Capitol Hill. So with that, I just want to say thank you, and God bless all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Congressman. And I can't wait either. So these students and young people have been so inspiring. Next, I would like to introduce Deep Patel from Improve the Dream. Deep is 25. He's a clinical pharmacist in Illinois. He was born in India and brought to the US at age 9 as an E2 visa dependent from Canada in 2005. He's currently on TN status, and he's the founder of Improve the Dream, a youth-led organization bringing awareness for the over 200,000 children who face aging out and self-deportation. Deep, over to you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Ross. Good morning, everyone. My name's Deep Patel, and I'm delighted to be speaking on behalf of documented dreamers from Improve the Dream. I would like to sincerely thank Congresswoman Ross, Congresswoman Miller-Meeks, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, and Congresswoman Kim for their unwavering support to protect documented dreamers. We are extremely grateful for the introduction of America's Children Act. For the first time, we have legislation which will permanently end aging out and provide a mechanism for a pathway to citizenship for every child who grows up in the United States with a documented status. 16 years ago, my parents immigrated here to start a small business with the hopes of giving me and my siblings the best opportunity to succeed and fulfill our dreams. Over the years, we made this country our home. In doing so, the country helped raise us, educating us in American schools and steeping us in American culture. This is a story that resonates with over 200,000 documented dreamers and their families. And while growing up, we're often asked, why don't you just apply for citizenship? Hearing this question repeatedly made me realize that many Americans are not aware that it is possible for an immigrant child to grow up in the United States with a documented status, but still have no clear path to citizenship. We grow up feeling American and have the same experiences as our peers, but when we turn 21, we face a stark reality. Since the immigration system currently has no mechanism in place to protect us, documented dreamers like us are aging out every day and face self-deportation from the country we call home. And once we age out, the decades we have spent growing up in the United States are rendered useless in the eyes of the immigration system. For too long, these obstacles have not only torn families apart and caused emotional turmoil, but they have also hurt America's economy by depriving it of children who were raised and educated by it. Improve the Dream was created with a vision that all children who grow up in the United States should have a clear path to citizenship. America's Children Act will help bring our vision to life and recognize that we truly are America's children. Thank you, Congresswoman Deborah Ross, for championing this cause and giving us a beacon of hope for achieving our American dream. Your dedicated support is the reason why over 200,000 documented dreamers who had felt hopeless now have hope for being recognized as something we have long felt, being Americans. Thank you, Congressman Miller-Meeks, Congressman Krishnamoorthi, and Congresswoman Kim for joining this effort. We are also incredibly grateful for Congresswoman Ross's amazing staff, Katie, Maddie, and the rest of the team who have worked tirelessly to make this possible. Thank you. This would also not have been possible without the thousands of documented dreamers and members of Improve the Dream who have raised their voices and whose inspiring stories and advocacy have resulted in this moment. This legislation will allow us to fully contribute our skills to our country and improve the dream for all children of long-term visa holders. We strongly urge Congress to pass America's Children Act swiftly. I'll now pass it off to Maria Teresa, who is a documented dreamer from Wake County, North Carolina. Maria.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Teresa, and I'm a constituent of Representative Ross. I'm so glad to be speaking here today. I was born in Kerala, India in 2003, and I moved to America when I was 4 years old in 2007. And in 2009, I moved to the Triangle area, and I've been living here for the past 12 years. My dad is here on an H-1B visa. And so as the children, my older brother and I are here on an H-4 visa. H-4 visa holders are faced with many struggles as we grow up. We go through our whole childhood with the awareness that we are not seen as fellow Americans, and once we turn 21, we are faced with the stark reality of being forced to self-deport and leave the country. My older brother is on the verge of turning 21, and for a long time he was struggling. When he applied to college, he couldn't apply for any scholarships or grants. He couldn't apply for student loans, and as a college student, he can't apply for any internships. As someone who just applied for college this past year, I had to go through most of these struggles as well. As an H-4 visa holder, we are obviously unable to apply for scholarships, work jobs, or apply for internships. This has put us apart from our peers. We can't work summer jobs or do some of the things that are a huge part of an American childhood. For most of my life, the thought of self-deporting has stressed me out. The thought of being forced to go back to a country where I wasn't familiar with the culture and the way of life terrified me. The America's Children Act allows children who have been in this country for years to finally get a path to a green card and takes away the uncertainty many of us have had to face. It has given so many documented dreamers hope of a future in America without the constant hurdles we face growing up. This bill will give us the ability to get educated, to have careers, and to start our lives in the place in which we have called home for almost the entirety of our lives. Thank you to Representatives Ross, Miller-Meeks, Krishnamoorthi, and Kim. The support you have shown us has been overwhelming, and we are immensely grateful to you. Thank you for giving us documented dreamers a voice. I'd like to thank Deep Patel and the Improve the Dream organization for giving documented dreamers all across the nation a new sense of hope and helping us feel a little less alone in the struggles that we face. I will now pass it off to Pareen Matre, a fellow documented dreamer from Iowa City.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Pareen Matre, and I'm a constituent of Representative Miller-Meeks from the 2nd District of Iowa. I'm so thankful to be here virtually today, and I can't express my gratitude enough to Representative Ross, Representative Miller-Meeks, Representative Krishnamoorthi, and Representative Kim for introducing America's Children Act.
Yeah, that's right.
I was born in India, and my parents and I moved to the US when I was just 4 months old. My parents completed their education at the University of Iowa, and then they started to work for the university. While waiting for a green card, I was on an H-4 visa for most of my life. Even if I identify myself as an Iowan, I lack the sense of permanence and security. As documented dreamers, we face the prospect of having to return to our country of birth, which we barely know. The current legal immigration system has disadvantaged children like myself because once we turn 21, meaning once we age out, we lose our dependent statuses. We are forced to start the immigration process all over again, or worse, self-deport. In my case, I aged out a few months ago. The uncertainty surrounding my immigration situation has affected my mental health. And unfortunately, I am not the only one. However, America's Children Act gives us hope.
Green, you're muted. Yeah.
There we go. However, America's Children Act gives us hope, which we have lacked for a long time. Without this type of solution, we would have to go through the same processes as our parents, apply for an F1 student visa, then an H-1B work visa, which is essentially a lottery system. Our existence in the country we think of as our home shouldn't come down to luck. This bill would allow children like me who have grown up on American soil and have been educated in American schools to get permanent residency after completing our college education. This bill brings us a step closer to being acknowledged and accepted as Americans. If passed and made into law, we'll be able to focus on forging our career paths and on being productive citizens of this country. We finally would be given a chance to follow our dreams and our passions. I would like to thank Congresswoman Deborah Ross for her continued support of documented dreamers, as she has been a great champion of our cause. I would also like to thank Congresswoman Miller-Meeks, who I was given the privilege to meet a couple weeks ago. She took the time to listen to us and understand our issues. I'd also like to thank Representatives Krishnamoorthi and Kim for their support. Lastly, I want to thank Deep Patel and the rest of Improve the Dream. Prior to joining this organization, I was in despair and in a constant state of suffering as a result of my unpredictable future. This organization, as well as America's Children Act, has given me and thousands of others hope and a new sense of perseverance. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Neil Mukija, Executive Director of Impact. Impact is the nation's leading civic organization for South Asian Americans. Impact advocates for federal and state policies that affect our communities and builds coalitions to achieve greater representation in government. A public interest attorney and a lecturer at the University of Pennsylvania Law School, Neil is a leading national voice in our community.
Thank you so much, Perrine, and thank you everyone for being here. I have to say, the only reason we are here is because of your advocacy, because of the group that you have put together with Improve the Dream. You inspire us all, and you are good citizens in every sense of the word. You're taking on an obligation, a burden, really, for hundreds of thousands of people, and it takes courage, and you shouldn't have to do that, but you are, and I commend you for that. And it was wonderful to meet all of you in DC. Your enthusiasm, your ability to to take that story, your own story, and others, and share that with those in office and power in Congress is incredibly powerful, and it's going to make the difference. It's going to help us get across the finish line to change all of your status and the status of many to come who we need here in this country. And as Perrine said, my name is Neil Mukija. I'm the Executive Director of Impact. We are now creating a structure to advocate for members of our community that hasn't existed before. And for too long, South Asians have really been invisible to those in power and many of the issues affecting us. But that's changing, and that's changing thanks to your work and the work of many other organizations on the ground. What's clear to us is that you are Americans in every sense of the word, except for this immigration policy that is unwise, unfair, and unjust. And we are going to keep speaking with additional members of Congress. We're so thankful for Congressmember Ross, Krishnamoorthi, and the members here today who have been co-sponsors and more who are coming. I'm going to be meeting with folks in the White House, and I'm in the train station in DC. I'm going to be meeting with them today. I'm going to hand them your letter and tell them that we need to continue this work, and they need to make it a priority. It's important to know that many of the policies in place are remnants of an immigration system set in place, or policies in the 20s that were by nature exclusionary, that set quotas on countries like India, that excluded people from China, the Chinese Exclusion Act, which many people know. And we're still dealing with those remnants of those policies. And with your consistent work and advocacy, we're going to change the system so that we actually live up to the American dream. And we're doing that not just for you, not just for all the people you represent, but for the entire country, because we benefit. Everyone will benefit from the work that you're doing. So thank you all again.
Well, I've got tears in my eyes. These young people inspire me beyond measure, and I'm so grateful that the House has passed this measure as part of the larger package. But we have to convince our friends on the Senate side. I think this bill will help us do it. And I want to thank everybody for attending and open it up to the press. Congress people are going to have to vote in the next 10 minutes. So if you have questions for us, I think we should go quickly, and then you can move on and have these wonderful young people be able to answer your questions for the remaining time.
Hi, I'm Laura Brockton with the News and Observer. I cover minority communities here in the Triangle area. And I just wanted to see if there was any if there were any numbers available, Representative Ross, for here in North Carolina, specifically the number of documented dreamers that you'd be available to share.
So I will let Deep and others give the total number for North Carolina. What I can tell you is I represent the Research Triangle area and Wake County. We have a growing Asian and Indian population, and this issue has been persistent, but it gets even greater as we attract more companies from all around the world, as we expand our biomedical research. And so it's not a fixed number in time. It actually gets worse. But if Deep has some numbers for North Carolina, or maybe Maria Teresa does for the entire state, maybe they can share those with you.
Great, thank you.
Laura, I can reach out to you after the call. I just sent you a message as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I would also, Maria Teresa, if you'd be willing to speak with me as well, Deep, if you could connect me with her, if she's willing to be interviewed, that'd be great.
Absolutely, I'll be in touch.
Great, thank you so much.
Tom Barton with the Quad City Times in Davenport, Iowa. I had a similar question about being able to get numbers for Iowa, and Perrine also was wondering if you would be up for an interview. And then I'm not sure if Congresswoman Miller-Meeks is still on the call, or if she had to go because of a hearing. I had a question for her.
You might need to follow up. Best laid plans, we picked probably the busiest morning on a flyout day, so.
Understand. Well, I guess the question I have is, I'm wondering about the larger population of around 2 million dreamers brought to the U.S. illegally as children, as well as migrant workers and immigrants who fled war, natural disasters, or humanitarian reasons. I guess, why focus on providing a gateway to citizenship for maybe this narrow slice of dreamers, as opposed to looking at the broader issue of providing a process for undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children to earn permanent resident status and eventual citizenship?
So let me just be clear. All 4 of the co-sponsors of this bill support the entire American Dream and Promise Act. So that bill passed here in the House. So you might want to check everybody's vote, but I can tell you I enthusiastically supported that bill. I have many dreamers in my district. I have a lot of immigrants in the Research Triangle area. The problem is that the Senate bill does not include the documented dreamers. So if the Senate refuses to take up the House comprehensive bill and only takes up its bill to send over, we want to make sure that we have a bill that covers the documented dreamers. So this bill obviously highlights and gives hope to the documented dreamers. It's supported by the House because the House has already passed it as part of another bill. But in the event that we get the Senate bill over that does not include them, we need this standalone legislation to protect them. I can also tell you that this bill is supported across the political spectrum. And the DREAM Act is not necessarily supported as much across the political spectrum. But I personally am committed to all Dreamers, and I have voted that way and want to make that very clear.
Thanks all. This is Maddie Carlos, the Congresswoman's Communications Director. It looks like that's what we had for press, but the Congresswoman might need to run. But if anyone would like to stay on and ask questions, feel free to.
Perrine, you mentioned the uncertainty is affecting your mental health, and I wondered if you could expand on that a little bit and talk about how passage of this legislation would affect your plans for college and beyond.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your question. Over the past few years, I have been struggling with depression, generalized anxiety, and panic disorder. And it's the root cause of those mental illnesses is my uncertainty in terms of my immigration situation, right? Growing up, I always had to think of my immigration status first. Whether it came to my college plans or where I would move in the future, I always had to think of my immigration situation. And because I didn't know that if I would be in this country with my parents after 21, or even after I graduate college, it's still in the back of my mind. However, this bill would would basically grant people like me permanent residency after college. I am entering my last year of college, and knowing that I would have a sense of security after that point, I mean, I've been in this country for 21 years, and just the thought of that is making me a little emotional. But I mean, it's not just me. There's so many others who have been waiting for their green cards for so long. And this bill would grant us that right after our college education.